On the very same day NASA fell silent, furloughing thousands under a frozen sky, a quiet rover millions of miles away lifted its gaze and changed everything. In a single frame, captured by Perseverance's navigation camera, a faint streak cut across the Martian night. A whisper of light, barely visible, yet precisely where 3I/Atlas, the interstellar wanderer, was predicted to appear. This was no coincidence. This was confirmation. The universe had spoken, and Mars had listened. What the rover caught was more than a cosmic visitor. It was the first visual proof that something not born of this solar system had entered our backyard. But when engineers stacked the frames, what emerged wasn't just a blur. It was a message carved in light, too linear, too stable, too deliberate. It glided steady as intended, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, a trajectory that matched perfection. No satellite, no glitch, no chance. And yet what followed made less sense. For every law of physics obeyed, another broke. The composition impossible, the direction reversed, the chemistry alien. As Mars turned beneath its crimson sky, a single rover had captured what no telescope on Earth could. The faint signature of something ancient, or engineered. And now, while Earth fell quiet under bureaucracy, one machine stood as witness, Perseverance, staring into the unknown. That faint streak became our only proof, a thread between worlds, dangling in silence, a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries arrive not in a blaze, but in a whisper. When engineers first reviewed Perseverance's 20 consecutive frames, they didn't see much, just static, noise, digital silence. But when they aligned those frames, calibrating each pixel to the rover's precise orientation, something astonishing emerged. A line, thin, faint, yet alive. That single streak held steady across every exposure, gliding at a speed no artifact could mimic. It didn't blink. It didn't skip. It traced a perfect arc, an unbroken signature moving exactly as predicted. Every frame whispered the same truth. This wasn't random. It was real. Statistically, the odds were microscopic. 20 shots in sequence, all capturing an object in the exact predicted coordinates, at the exact second of its closest approach. Astronomers call that impossible. Engineers call it proof. But the true gravity of the image wasn't in its clarity. It was in its silence. This smudge had no tail, no core, no flaring jets of ice or dust. It moved as if watching, not burning. Smooth, precise, intentional. Specialists at JPL tore apart the data, searching for cosmic rays, lens defects, Martian atmosphere distortions, anything that could explain it away. One by one, every mundane cause fell. Nothing fit. What remained was undeniable. Perseverance had caught an interstellar visitor in motion. But why Mars? Why then? High-resolution orbiter cameras were poised overhead, but their captures remained sealed, locked behind administrative gates. So for now, this fragile smudge is all that stands between uncertainty and understanding. A ghost written in photons, whispering from 225 million kilometers away. It's the kind of evidence that rewrites history, not because it's bright, but because it's true. And as silence echoed from every official channel, the world was left staring at one question. What did we just see? While Perseverance offered the first faint proof, what followed from across the cosmos broke every scientific boundary ever drawn. 5 of humanity's most advanced observatories, James Webb, Swift, Hubble, and the Very Large Telescope, turned their gaze toward 3I/Atlas. Each expected a comet. None found one. James Webb's infrared instruments saw something unnatural. The object's coma, the glowing cloud around it, wasn't rich in water vapor as comets always are. Instead, it was dominated by carbon dioxide, 8 times stronger than water lines. Imagine a comet that breathes exhaust, not ice. Something built for space, not born from it. Then Swift peered in ultraviolet, searching for familiar signatures, the telltale fingerprints of hydroxyl and water. But they were almost gone, drowned out by something stranger. Carbon monoxide, a gas rarely seen in dominance. It was as if this thing wasn't melting, it was venting. Next came polarization, The VLT measured a negative polarization angle, meaning light was scattering backward, behavior reserved for metallic or artificial surfaces, not cosmic dust. It hinted at grains shaped, not random, forged, not flung. And Hubble? Hubble found a halo, but not one cast away from the sun. It was facing it. A fan of scattered light pointing toward the source, like a mirror turned skyward. Then came the final blow. Spectroscopy revealed nickel vapor, shimmering without any trace of iron. In the universe, those two walk hand in hand. Yet here, nickel stood alone. 5 observatories, 5 anomalies, 5 impossible results. When nature refuses to play by its own rules, something or someone is rewriting them. The universe had sent a riddle, and Earth had finally noticed. As the data poured in, something strange began to happen. Not out there in the sky, but here on Earth. The silence. It grew. NASA's usual rhythm, image releases, science updates, briefing streams, suddenly faltered. High-resolution captures from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Mars Express, and the Trace Gas Orbiter, all scheduled to reveal 3I/Atlas in stunning clarity, simply never came. Instead, the world became quiet. Official feeds went dark. Email chains looped. Ongoing review, they said. Pending validation. Yet the timing was too perfect. The US government shutdown had furloughed 15,000 NASA employees, freezing the agency just as the most important flyby in decades unfolded. Behind the blackout, whispers began to crawl across encrypted channels and amateur forums. Rumors claimed that raw frames showed geometry, structure, shadow gradients no comet should cast. Some said the object's profile wasn't spherical or diffuse, but angular, like metal beneath ice. The European Space Agency confirmed their instruments had captured the event, but they too locked their data under bureaucratic seal. For a moment that could have unified science, the world was met instead with a digital curtain. And in the absence of truth, imagination took its place. Social media flared with speculation. Some posts vanished minutes after going viral. Conspiracy or coincidence, no one could say. But in that void, one truth became unavoidable. The systems designed to reveal our universe had turned inward, their voices hushed. It wasn't just a blackout. It was a moment when knowledge itself was held hostage, when humanity's window to the stars fogged over. Because sometimes silence doesn't mean nothing is there. Sometimes silence means something is too much to speak. When the first encrypted leaks surfaced, they weren't photographs, they were sketches. Crude outlines traced from what insiders claimed were unreleased orbiter frames. They showed not a comet's round haze, but something sharper, angled, layered, almost built. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the internet, a small group of remote viewers, the kind dismissed by mainstream science, began reporting eerily consistent visions. They described a metallic core buried under translucent ice. Not random shards, but smooth curvature, repeating patterns, geometric veins that looked engineered. One described a pulse, a signal. Another, what looked like markings, deliberate etchings, symbols burned into its surface. None of them knew they were describing the same coordinates. Skeptics laughed, as they should. Science deals in proof, not premonition. Yet as more independent viewers submitted their blind impressions, a disturbing overlap appeared. Dozens of minds across continents describing one image. A compact device embedded in something vast, ancient, and cold. Could coincidence reach that far? Could imagination synchronize that precisely? The timing, again, was suspicious. These sessions occurred before Mars flyby, before public awareness of 3I/Atlas even existed. To some, it was noise. To others, a whisper from the collective unconscious. But to a few inside JPL, the descriptions sounded unsettlingly familiar. Because deep inside the embargoed image logs, there were files, red flagged for further analysis. Files that allegedly showed reflective geometries and surface alignments no natural object could form. The public never saw them. Not yet, but word spread, and a new idea began to bloom, one heretical and electrifying. What if 3I/Atlas wasn't just passing through? What if it was meant to be seen? Then came the night the sky went blind. It started with an unassuming notification, Tracking interruption detected. The Deep Space Network, the same array that has spoken to Voyager, Cassini, and Perseverance, suddenly dropped signal. For 39 minutes, every dish, Goldstone, Madrid, Canberra recorded blank silence. No data, no telemetry, just static. At first, it was dismissed as solar interference. But the sun was quiet that night. No flares, no geomagnetic storms. Then came a chilling twist. Amateur astronomers around the globe, from Chile to Japan, reported synchronized camera failures. Sensors froze mid-exposure, shutters jammed, timestamps corrupted. It was as if the sky itself had blinked. When the systems came back online, 3I/Atlas was gone. Its trajectory, once predictable to within meters, had shifted. The orbit didn't decay. It changed. No comet in history has altered course without a force acting upon it. Yet there were no gravitational tugs, no jets of outgassing, no known cause. It simply redirected. NASA's internal bulletin, later leaked under an anonymous key, described the event as non-ballistic behavior inconsistent with natural mechanics. That phrase sent shivers through the scientific community. Non-ballistic, meaning something that moves with intent. Even more alarming, the brief reappearance caught by the high-rise camera showed a faint streak. Straight, metallic, and aligned with Mars' horizon, as if hovering. Engineers called it artifacting. Physicists called it impossible. But the numbers didn't lie. The blackout aligned perfectly with the object's course correction. Something had interacted with it, or it had interacted with us. In that silence, the universe had spoken. Not through light, not through sound, but through absence. And for those listening closely, the message was deafening. Just days after the blackout, something began to echo back. It didn't come through NASA's antennas or Mars relay, it came through the noise. Buried in the static of open space frequencies, hobbyist radio operators started reporting a strange modulation near 8.46 gigahertz, a band reserved for deep space telemetry. It wasn't random. It repeated at precise intervals, exactly every 11 minutes and 13 seconds. At first, it seemed like interference. But when analysts isolated the waveform, they found a structure, symmetry, repetition, purpose. It wasn't language in any human sense, but it was ordered, like binary embedded in chaos, a pattern that seemed to shift based on Earth's position relative to Mars. The moment our planet rotated out of alignment, the signal ceased. When it returned, the modulation adapted again, as if it was tracking us. Deep learning models tried to decode it, revealing harmonic ratios mirroring phi, the golden constant. Geometry in waveform, mathematics written in resonance. And here's where it became undeniable. A fragment of the sequence matched a telemetry checksum used by NASA's Mars orbiters. A handshake protocol never broadcast beyond Earth. Something out there was echoing our own code back at us. Was it mimicry, reflection, or comprehension? Soon after, classified internal memos labeled the anomaly as Signal Echo Event 11A. The official statement called it a feedback loop. But the spectral phase drift showed intent, adaptive timing, not random scatter. For the first time, Earth wasn't just watching. It was being answered. And in that faint pulse, that rhythmic whisper from the void, the greatest question ever asked by our species hung suspended in silence. Are we the observers or the observed? It was supposed to be deleted. Buried deep in a quarantined JPL server behind layers of restricted access, there existed a file labeled MRO_high-3IAtlas_1179.frm, a raw, uncompressed image from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-resolution camera. According to internal logs, it was captured just seconds before the global blackout began. The file was marked Contaminated Telemetry, flagged for purge. But someone, an unnamed engineer long since reassigned, copied a fragment to an offsite backup. That fragment would later leak to a dark server under the alias The Frame 1179. For days, no one could open it. Standard decoders failed. It wasn't corrupted, it was encrypted. And the encryption wasn't NASA's. When the file was finally reconstructed, what emerged silenced even the skeptics. Against the blood-red backdrop of Mars twilight, an object hovered. Not a blur, not a streak, but a shape. triangular symmetry, 3 luminous nodes along its edges, surface reflections consistent with polished alloy, not dust. It wasn't glowing, it was reflecting sunlight, deliberately angled. The geometry was impossible to dismiss. Pixel analysts traced its structure. 120-degree angles, equilateral alignment, and a central void emitting no light at all. A silhouette of precision in a world of chaos. Every attempt to debunk it raised more questions. How did telemetry glitch in a three-dimensional perspective? How could random interference produce mirror-balanced geometry? Then came the metadata. Timestamp, 3:14 and 9 seconds universal time coordinated. The exact moment the Deep Space Network lost contact. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a rock. It was something that looked made. And just like that, the file vanished. Domain revoked. Mirror wiped. But copies never truly die. Because once something is seen, it can never be unseen. When the image vanished, so did the people talking about it. Accounts deleted. Handles gone. Reddit threads scrubbed. One by one, entire conversations dissolved overnight. Not flagged, not banned, erased. Yet traces remained in the cache. Fragments of users whispering the same thing. It's not noise. It's a countdown. They weren't referring to numbers, but timing. Analysts studying the return signal noticed a deeper rhythm hidden beneath its surface modulation. The pulses weren't random. Every 11 minutes, 13 seconds. Yes, but over 24 hours, those intervals subtly shifted, not by error, but design. They aligned with Earth's sidereal rotation, adjusting as though compensating for our planet's movement. It was watching us move. 14 cycles later, the signal changed again, splitting into 3 frequencies. When mapped as vectors, their phase angles formed a triangle. The same geometric pattern seen in the forbidden frame. Coincidence? Impossible. Mathematicians began treating the waveform as coordinates, spatial data encoded in resonance. When plotted in 3D, the points formed a lattice, one eerily reminiscent of a tetrahedral field, the same geometric symmetry found in planetary energy maps, from the Great Red Spot on Jupiter to Olympus Mons on Mars. This wasn't random noise. It was architecture. Someone or something was drawing in silence. Governments quickly classified the research, reassigning those who decoded it. Public observatories were warned off those frequencies under communication interference advisories. The official stance: no anomaly detected. But for those who'd seen the pattern, there was no going back. Because if you listen long enough, silence isn't empty. It's structured. And when structure emerges from silence, it means intention. The question now wasn't what 3i/Atlas was. It was who was behind it. Every civilization leaves behind signatures, fingerprints in stone, echoes in mathematics, scars across the cosmos. But 3i/Atlas wasn't a relic drifting aimlessly through eternity. It was a message in motion, a messenger older than memory. And the closer scientists looked, the clearer it became. This was not nature's hand at work. Hidden within its repeating waveform, physicists discovered ratios embedded in harmonics, 1 to 1.618 to 2.718, a triad merging the golden ratio, Euler's constant, and pi. 3 constants that define organic life, growth, and infinite curvature. These weren't numbers chosen by chance. They were the language of creation itself, written not in symbols but in physics. And then came the most unnerving realization. The object's trajectory, from interstellar entry to its near-Mars deflection, traced a path perfectly aligned with Earth's solstitial axis. A celestial line known since ancient times, mirrored in the pyramids, in Stonehenge, in forgotten monoliths half buried beneath sand and sea. Were those monuments echoes of a blueprint we'd long forgotten? Theorists began whispering of the architects, not aliens in ships, but engineers of order. Entities who shaped gravity like clay, who planted harmonic seeds in the structure of reality itself. 3i/Atlas, they argued, wasn't a visitor. It was a reminder, a recalibration of cosmic memory. And yet, if this was their message, why now? Why through silence and geometry, not voice and light?